Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Samantha LaBeouf and I'm a PhD student at the University of Minnesota in the Department of Family Social Science. And today I will present to you our social media scenario activity. It examines 3 common scenarios caregivers are likely to face with teens, such as social media, video games, and spending too much time online, and covers some helpful tools, strategies, and discussion questions to help address them. This activity can be used with caregivers individually or as a small group training, so feel free to pause at any time to jot down ideas or talk with colleagues. I will read each scenario to you, pause for a moment to let you brainstorm, then we will cover the strategies and some discussion questions. Okay, so let's get started. Our first scenario today is Jenny. Jenny is a 15-year-old high school student who loves sending Snapchats of her daily life with friends and family. Jenny likes the constant connection and being able to see family and friends instantly. She loves being able to keep up with their lives even if they aren't together. One day, Jenny gets a Snapchat friend request from a boy she doesn't know. Jenny accepts the friend request, and after a few weeks of talking, Jenny learns that the boy is 16 years old and says he goes to Jenny's high school. Since Jenny is able to see the boy's face in snaps, she thinks that he is telling the truth. After a few weeks of messaging and sending snaps, the boy begins to pressure Jenny into sending inappropriate and revealing images of herself. Jenny knows that snaps self-destruct and alerts the sender if someone takes a screenshot. After more pressure from the boy, Jenny agrees and decides to send photos of herself in a bra and underwear. Jenny is not aware that there are apps designed to take a picture of snaps without alerting the sender. The boy now wants to meet in person, but Jenny is unsure. The boy then threatens to send the pictures Jenny sent to everyone at Jenny's high school if she doesn't agree to meet him, and even sends her the photos back as proof that he has them. Jenny agrees to go alone to meet him in a park, where she discovers the boy is not who he says he is, and that he is much older than 16. Jenny is now in a very dangerous situation. So, some questions for us to consider. What are some ways caregivers can be proactive to help prevent similar situations from happening? How can caregivers foster safe and open environments to help teens feel comfortable talking about difficult situations? We're going to pause here for a minute to allow you to brainstorm and jot down some ideas before we get to some strategies. Okay, if you need some more time, go ahead and click pause, which is the button with 2 vertical lines in the bottom left corner of the video. And if you're ready, we'll go ahead and move on to some strategies. So Jenny knew that she should not add strangers on social media, that she should not send inappropriate images to others, and that she should not meet people she met online alone in person. However, she was afraid to talk with her parents because she feared they would blame her and take her technology away. Jenny chose not to turn to her parents for help and instead met a stranger in real life because she was afraid of how her parents would react. Youth have reported that the number one reason they did not come forward when something went wrong online was because they were afraid their technology, such as computers and cell phones, were going to be taken away. Instead, there are some ways we can talk about internet safety and be proactive so that if these events do happen online, teens will be more likely to come forward and let you know what's going on. So be proactive to help prevent situations. Know how to block and report someone on social media and walk through these features. Whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, or TikTok, all of these sites have a way you can block users that make you feel uncomfortable or for any reason, even if you just don't want to talk to them anymore. So walk through these features with teens. Make sure they know how to block and report someone and that it is totally okay to do this. If you block or report someone, stress to teens that it doesn't notify the user that you have blocked them if teens maybe feel uncomfortable or worried about using this feature. So I invite you to look at some of these features and walk through them, especially when teens are first creating a social media account or even after. It can be a good way to get the conversation going, saying, hey, do you know how to block someone on Facebook? Or can you show me how to do this? And then walk through it with the teens. Also talking to teens about internet safety. Not everyone online is who they say they are. And especially now that there are so many apps that have filters and video changing effects, that even when you think you're looking at the person, they can present themselves as younger, or if you're not able to see the person, then they can really pretend to be anyone. So it's important to remind teens about this. Also, the grandma rule. If you wouldn't send the picture or the text to your grandmother, then don't send it online. Jenny thought that just because Snapchat self-destruct, that no one would be able to save the text or save the pictures. But in reality, there are several apps that let you go around that feature, and you can Snapchat and screenshot the images, and they can be taken without the sender knowing. So just reminding teens that everything you put online is there forever, even if you take it down. And finally, be understanding and recognize that teens will make some mistakes online. So there were kind of 3 points in our scenarios where Jenny could have turned to someone for help. When she added someone she didn't know online, when she sent the pictures to the boy, and then again before she went and met him. So again, it's important to be open and have this dialogue constantly between you and teens and understand that they are not perfect and they're going to make mistakes. For example, if they add someone on Snapchat that they don't know, don't freak out and just take the phone. Instead, use it as a starting point to discuss internet safety with teens, and this will make it more likely they'll come forward in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and pause here for another minute, let you discuss what was presented and some of the ideas you and others might have come up with before moving on to the next scenario. Okay, if you need some more time, go ahead and click pause, which again is that button with 2 vertical lines in the bottom left corner of the video. And if you're ready, we'll move on to the next scenario. Wendy versus Fortnite. Wendy is a 45-year-old mother. She raised her 2 older children before smartphones were very popular, so her kids played on the computer at home from time to time, but didn't have constant access to social media, video games, and other apps on smart devices. Her youngest foster child, Charlie, is 14 years old and recently received his first cell phone, a smartphone, from his dad for his birthday. He immediately made accounts on Instagram and Snapchat, but spends most of his time playing Fortnite. Wendy is noticing that his smartphone use, and especially Fortnite, was interfering with his relationships with friends and family, his sleep patterns, and his grades in school. Wendy became concerned about the amount of time Charlie was spending playing Fortnite and about the way he behaved when she took his phone away for short periods of time while doing homework or eating dinner with his family. She is beginning to feel helpless about her son's Fortnite use and is considering giving up trying to regulate his use. So, some questions for us to consider. How do you or other caregivers you know regulate teens' technology use? Has this been an effective method? And would you recommend this method to other caregivers? What are some examples of rules that Wendy could set for Charlie regarding his technology use? What might be an appropriate consequence for her to consider if he breaks these rules? What resources would help you as caregivers to feel confident in your ability to set and enforce rules about technology use? And how can you tell when technology is interfering too much with a teen's life and it is at the point where stricter rules are needed? I'm going to pause here for a minute to allow you to brainstorm and jot down some ideas before we get to some strategies. Okay, if you need some more time, go ahead and click pause, and if you're ready, we'll move on to strategies. Okay, so some possible strategies for Wendy. Definitely don't give up altogether monitoring their technology use and playing video games. Sadly, there is no one size fits all when it comes to setting rules about technology use. It's really going to depend on a variety of factors, such as the age of the teen, their personality, rules that have been set before, and the medium. For example, monitoring video game usage versus social media. However, you generally should try and set strict rules and enforce them consistently. For example, his phone has to charge in her room after 10 p.m. and he has to leave his phone with her when he is working on homework or they are having family time. Be adaptable and recognize that rules may change based on what is working for you and your teens. Keep open communication with him and listen to his feelings and concerns about the new rules so they can talk through these issues together. Remember, it is okay to change strategies and that you are doing a great job no matter what, so don't give up. I'll pause here for another minute, let you discuss what was presented and some of the ideas you and others might have come up with before we move on to the next scenario. Okay, if you need some more time, go ahead and click pause, and if you're ready, we'll move on to the last scenario. Our last scenario is Eddie. Eddie is a 16-year-old who has always done well in school. Recently, he has seemed more tired than usual in the mornings, and one of his recent test scores was lower than usual. His mom recently overheard that he was caught falling asleep in class. Carol talks with him about his recent behavior, and he insists he just hasn't been sleeping well recently. She believes him, and they brainstorm ways to help him sleep better, which he seems responsive to. That night, Carol wakes up and checks on him to make sure he was able to fall asleep. When she walks in, she sees Eddie awake and on his phone at 1 a.m., and she quickly learns he hasn't been sleeping well because he has been up playing games and Snapchatting his friends. Carol takes his phone away for the rest of the night, and they both go to bed. Carol knows she has to have a conversation with Eddie about his late night phone use, but she is conflicted about how to handle the situation. So, some questions for us to consider. Have you experienced a situation similar to this? If so, what have you tried in the past? Why did it work or not work? Do you know any other caregivers who have experienced something similar? What did they try to do, and was it successful? What resources, information, physical items, knowledge would you, as a caregiver, need in order to feel comfortable and confident handling this situation? We're going to pause here for a minute to allow you to brainstorm and jot down some ideas and answers to these questions before we get to some strategies. Okay, if you need some more time, go ahead and click pause, and if you're ready, we'll move on to the strategies. So there are two avenues to possibly take here. One, take his phone and ban all electronics from his room at night. A pro, the situation is resolved and he's not up Snapchatting and playing games at 1 a.m. However, this may cause conflict in the relationship. He may not learn how to have self-control over his own phone use, especially for older teens who will be on their own soon. Or natural consequences. If he stays up late, he will be tired the next day. The pro is hopefully he will learn from his actions and choose to stop on his own. However, he may not choose to stop on his own. This may continue to impact his grades without more direct intervention. So what are some other possible solutions you can come up with, and what are the pros and cons for each of them? We're going to pause again for a minute here. I invite you to talk with other people in the room and see what everyone came up with, or if you're taking this by yourself, what are possible pros and cons for the scenarios that you were able to come with? Were they similar or different from what was presented here? Okay, if you need some more time, go ahead and click pause. And if you're finished discussing, that is all we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this activity was helpful for you. Feel free to come back and revisit any of the scenarios if you want to have more time with one or you weren't able to get to all of them. Also, please check out the link listed here for some additional resources. And thank you, everyone.